Are you ignoring the warnings of Jesus Christ? Before we continue, let's remember that Paul says we are not saved by the works of the law, but those who are saved obey the law.
For by works of the law no human being will be justified in his sight, since through the law comes knowledge of sin. For it is not the hearers of the law who are righteous before God, but the doers of the law who will be justified.
It is not their works, but it's their faith that makes them righteous. That's why Paul says the righteous will live by faith, and a person with faith will do God's law, because we are saved by faith, and that saving faith does God's law. In our past study videos, we learned about the Greek word anomia, which means to break the law of God or to live without the law of God. This word is usually translated as lawlessness, wickedness, unrighteousness, and iniquity. When Jesus warns us about the future, just before he returns for us, he uses this word. He says,
"And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold."
He says a lot of false prophets will arise and deceive a lot of people. These false prophets lead many astray by teaching others to break God's law. Thus, lawlessness will abound. And because this lawlessness abounds, the love of many will grow cold. But why? Why does breaking God's law cause a person's love to grow cold?
Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law.
The law of God is all about love. If you love, you will do his law. Jesus says,
"If you love me, you will keep my commandments."
and when tested by the Pharisees about his law, listen to his response.
"Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets."
These two great commandments are the whole purpose of the law of God and the writings of the prophets. Christ was actually quoting these commandments from Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18. When looking at the 10 commandments in Exodus 20, you'll find that the first 4 commandments are all about loving God, and then the last 6 are all about loving your neighbor. So if you're breaking God's law, you're not loving God or your neighbor. John says,
"By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and obey his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. And his commandments are not burdensome."
let's take a look at another important warning from Jesus Christ.
"Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven."
Not everyone who says they believe will be saved, because they did not have the true faith that results in doing God's will.
"I delight to do your will, O my God. Your law is within my heart."
He goes on to say,
On that day many will say to me, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name?"
these believers are focused on the miracles and works they performed as evidence of salvation. But we are not saved by works, we are saved by faith.
And then will I declare to them, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness."
Now we know that Jesus knows everyone because unlike men, he can see the heart. So then why does Christ say he does not know those who break the law of God?
And by this we know that we have come to know him, if we keep his commandments. Whoever says, "I know him," but does not keep his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him.
The Greek word for know here is gnosko, which means to intimately or personally know someone. So we see here in this warning, Christ points out 2 different groups of believers, one who does God's will and the others who break his law. One group lives by assumption and the other lives by faith. Let's take a look at another warning that Christ gives through a parable.
Just as the weeds are gathered and burned with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all lawbreakers.
Clearly, the wicked who face punishment at the end of the world will be known as those who caused others to sin and broke the law of God. Are you ignoring the warnings of Jesus Christ? Well, are you committing lawlessness purposely? I hope you enjoyed this short video. Please like, share, and subscribe for more on Christ and His law.